Good morning, Aristo, or good afternoon.
Good morning, Ron. It's good to see you in the live again. I hope everything is going wonderfully for you, but as you said in your video, it's a mixed bag all the time.
Well, with me, when you choose to embrace the paradox, it means you accept all aspects of yourself and every aspect of life. And I don't believe we're being in integrity unless we do that as humans. Our job is to bring both parts together for that divine marriage that is so mystical in nature, which is
Well,
always within ourselves and with ourselves.
definitely. I mean, paradox just means beyond the dogma, beyond what you have been taught and you have been told, beyond the matrix. So, paradox is basically taking a step into uh, independence. And so,
Sometimes confusion.
exactly. Well, I think they mix a lot because you can see children. When children learn something new, they're always confused at some point, and they always stumble, and sometimes they cry and whatever. But it's we've been conditioned to think that learning is the school system, where everybody's in neat little rows and the teacher says and you memorize and you get graded. But if you look at an infant, how they learn, then it's really what some people would call messy and what I would call organic. But I wanted to extend the conversation a little bit today, and I might, rant a little bit. There's a few things that I've been thinking and that I wanted to express. So, but of course, feel free to interject. It doesn't mean I'm going to monopolize the conversation here. But regarding your video as well, I was thinking as I was listening to it, well, what is my present moment experience here? I'm feeling a lot of fear, but I'm also feeling a lot of calm and a lot of grace. I'm feeling them together at the same time. How is this possible? But somebody would ask me, well, what are you afraid of? Nothing. But I'm feeling a lot of fear. You see, the fear, I have a choice in being able to feel the fear, experience it, circulate it, but to put the storyline aside. The fear doesn't need a reason. It doesn't need to belong to anybody. It doesn't need to be mine. It doesn't need to be yours. And it doesn't need to be the collectives or gods or the devils or anything. I'm experiencing it. And in the same way, I'm experiencing grace. I don't say this is my grace, it's not your grace, or this is your grace and not my grace. I'm experiencing this sense of calm along with the fear. And I'm also experiencing a very tiny domain as of yet that's growing. And this is what I feel is the domain of integrity, where they fuse together and where they marry and where they become something new. And so I feel when Heather was saying, yes, we're already there, she's pointing to the emergence of this something new that's very hard to put into words. And
That's
most
why a
people,
lot of people don't understand what she's saying.
exactly,
They
exactly.
have no
And
point of reference.
well, she is unintentionally confusing because she is paradoxical in some ways. She is
I
very
get
yeah.
it.
I'm sure you've perceived it, and she may have a hard time phrasing it herself because on the one hand she's a legal person, a person who speaks legalese, which is very precise, very well defined, very definite, and on the other hand she's expressing these things that have no definition at all. They're very fluid, and the people who listen to her say, well, think that, well, this is the lawyer talking. No, this is the mystic talking. And so it's a whole different orientation. And she is talking paradoxically. She's bringing in the legalese framework on the one hand and interjecting this mystical um, communicative style that's like parables and metaphors. Um, and people have a hard time because they shift into either this or that. And her message is basically, well, it's happening, but you'll never experience the happening unless you get into this crazy, confusing, and temporarily confusing, because it does clarify the two sides of the brain, the two sides of the heart, the bottom and the top, and all of these, as Jesus said, make the two one, which is across the board for everything. The Buddha said it the same way when he said, listen to the sound of the one hand clapping. That means take both hands and put them together, and the sound of that both hands would normally make is really the sound of one single hand, neither right nor left.
Well, someone said that you can actually, if you could move your hand fast enough, it would actually create a sound of one hand clapping, but you'd have to break the sound barrier to hear it.
Oh, you'd have to break the light barrier. I mean, you'd
Oh,
have to
okay.
go at the speed of light where things are relativistic and time becomes eternal and everything is omnipresent. So essentially, it's the paradox of saying the same thing by evoking physics. So that's the thing, and it's the first time that we have a formal declaration or a series of declarations in an organization from people coming from a legal perspective, a perspective of social transformation, that's interjecting mysticism. So when she says being and doing, she's acting it out. But people don't have examples of that in their own lives. They don't see how they can act it out. And that is their challenge. They cannot expect Heather to do it for them or to give them the menu of how it is done. There's another thing, that the world is full of paradoxes. One of the you mentioned that I am not anybody's guru and nobody and this and that. But let me say that the word guru in Sanskrit is actually, in Latin, if you translated it, would be Lucifer. So,
Wow, I didn't know that.
oh, guru means the one who dispels the light, the dark. And Lucifer is the one who brings the light. So it's basically one and the same thing. So opening, and the guru in traditional yoga is the Christ consciousness equivalent in the heart, in the center. So in that way, the bringer of light and Christ consciousness and the guru are one and the same in the deep esoteric sense. So mystical experience, or at least one level of it, is to be able to live that, to be able to internally experience it without having to have it explained to you. But sometimes the explanations but it's a paradox that reveals all these other paradoxes. And what the Matrix tries to do, the Matrix is a great teacher, but it's like looking into a mirror and you see everything inverted. So it's up to you to revert it. It's like the lens in our eye. The lens in our eye reverses everything when it falls, but the brain has the task of interpreting it and inverting it right back again.
Right.
And this is what I believe our paradoxical challenge is to be able to take the whole matrix situation and bring it back to where it's supposed to be. Then we'll see that things are okay. Until then, it's not just seeing, we'll experience it. But until then, we will experience that they are not okay.
Yeah, one of the things that, going back a little bit to what you said, one of the things in the Bible, it compares Christ to the serpent that was lifted up in the wilderness by Moses and he was the serpent, which is also the sign of the evil, the serpent that tempted Eve in the garden. So it's interesting that even in the Bible, it puts that paradox together, and it says the Savior or the Redeemer is also the one that was the tempter, or the serpent. And
exactly.
so, I mean, that's what I was thinking. But most people can't get that.
Well, they don't.
There really isn't duality. There's really one, but it manifests as two different aspects.
Well, for me, for example, I'm coming from a perspective, and Peter Van Runt mentioned this. There's the mystics and the occultists. It's like, no, really, the mystic is the being part, and the occultism is the doing part. Occultism is just what mystics do. The psychopaths have tried to do occultism without mysticism, or actually they have an inverted mysticism, and so their occultism is inverted. But everything we think we know about occultism that's popularized is actually propaganda to keep us from the truth. The Hebrew Bible is based on what we call wizardry. And wizardry is nothing more. It's the same word as sorcery. It means wisdom. It comes from the word wisdom, just like sorcerer comes from the word wise man. And essentially, it's the power of the word, or what the Greeks would call the logos. And even in the Bible, they talk about that. And in the beginning of the Bible, they even talk that the first thing that Adam did when he was in the garden created, he was naming everything. God said, okay, give everything a name. So they emphasize the power of the word, and not only that, but the power of the letter of the word. Every Hebrew letter is a power. It's like an angel. It's not just an archetype, it's a living representation of something. So when you string letters together to form a word, you create an existential equation. And this resonates with the perception of a thing.
Like
And when the,
runes.
exactly, it's exactly the same thing. Runes, Chinese ideograms, Babylonian scripts, all of these things, and all of this has been suppressed. In fact, the English alphabet comes from the Latin alphabet, comes from the Greek alphabet, comes from the Phoenician Hebrew alphabet, which comes from Egyptian hieroglyphs, which come from cave paintings. Every letter used to be this cave painting. They used to make this grand ritual about it, a big deal. People would get together and say, yes, this is the idea. They couldn't put it into words, but they sang it, they danced it, and they represented it. And over the years, they condensed it into this tiny group of lines that we call a letter. And all of the letters were capital. The original writings only had capital letters. So the capital letter is where the occult significance lies. So when you look at the corporate governments and all of this, and the maritime systems, they force us to sign our names with capital letters. Now, they have presented, I think, or encouraged, or there was a misunderstanding. I'm not going to get into that. That, well, the capital letters represent the straw man, which is not real, while the small letters are your real name. It's the other way around. Really, the capital letter has the occult significance and speaks to your subconscious. And so when you put something in capital letters, you're actually vibrating the sacred name of what your parents chose to call you, which has a certain significance. You're vibrating your identity and putting it on the contract. If you try to sign that contract with small letters, they won't let you. They're going to get very angry at you, but I haven't heard any of that mentioned. But if you refuse to sign the contract and say, well, take your capital letters, take your straw man, I'll take the small letters, you've consciously divorced from them, but they still have a hold in your subconscious. So these contracts are not so much straw man templates, but they come from the mythic idea of signing a deal with the devil, where you basically sign your name in blood or your soul or something like that. And my suggestion from an occult perspective is to feel your own name in capital letters and just say, I reclaim it. I don't care what they write and what they do. It doesn't matter so much about the formality. That can come later. But what I feel Heather is doing is saying, if you want to create external changes, change the way you view the reality, change the way not just you see it, but that you feel it. And sometimes everything you see in the law structure, the historic, the maritime law, and all of that, they give you hints. But they basically, scrambled the information so most people don't know how to interpret it. And the stuff on the internet is coming from a pseudo-occult perspective. Even channelers which channel higher intelligence, there's a lot that gets lost in the translation because their interpretation mechanism is skewed by matrix parameters. So one of the things I like to do and what I hope to help people or at least suggest is to be able to set the record straight in terms of true occultism based on 30 years of experience. And because I've been working with the power of the word lately, affirmations are very, very powerful. But unless you energize the word and each letter, unless you read English, for example, just visualize it like a teletype and feel each letter, send its message. Listen to, when you read something, listen to what the words are saying behind the presentation. That's what I was saying. When you listen to another person, there's always a subtext. And the Matrix is sending us a subtext. The contracts are all have a subtext. It's that signing your soul over to the devil. And it's not like it's true, but it's telling your subconscious. So that's why you've intuitively as well, I believe, have sensed that, well, it's not enough to just say leave it alone and forget about it. It's all working for the good, forget about it. Let's just, go off to the mountains somewhere and do our own thing. Your subconscious is still with them. But it's subconscious and you don't feel it. And of course you won't recognize it, but if you go deeper into your experience, you'll sense it. You've sensed it, I believe. It may be difficult to express and put into words, but that is just like that seed we mentioned before that needs to be cultivated. And it needs, unlike the seed of a personal, manifestation, this is a shared manifestation, so it does need to be communicated. And people are still in that either or state of saying, well, it either has to be this, or either the world is fixed or it's not fixed. No, it's the world. If there's a fixed world, so to speak, but nobody's in it, it's meaningless. you know
We live in an evolving world.
exactly. It's a transition. It's both, and you can do an either or thing, and that can be useful. But the
To
thing
a
is,
point.
there's a triple thing. There's the 1 point, there's the second point, and there's the middle where the two are being fused. Just like there's you, there's the woman you are attracted to, and there's the relationship, which is almost like an independent entity that you're helping grow and evolve. And I hope people can feel this, and that's why I gave the example in the beginning of what am I doing in the present moment? How is my being? My being is fear. I feel terrified. But how do I explain this? Because the storyline that the world's going to end is just unacceptable. It's over there, but the fear is real. So there are students that are anxious. Yesterday, I went through an experience of tremendous love, but I had my heart opened up, and I had a strange premonition. Because when the heart opens up, the field that it touches is going to respond. People are going to say, I don't want to feel love. I'm pissed. I'm angry. I want, and I'm beyond that. What are you going to do about this? It's like going up to your mate when she's in a bad mood and going, but I love you. And she just slaps you. And it's, because it's an either or thing. What they're saying is that, yeah, you're over this chasm here and you're resonating love, but it's just irritating me because we're not blending. And blending means feeling the love in the presence of the irritation, in the presence of the fear, both of them.
See, one of the lies of New Age spirituality is you can't be in love and in fear at the same time. That's not my experience. I can be I can feel fear and feel love at the same time, and I think that's what you're saying. If I'm hearing you correctly.
I'm emphasizing it with all the power of my being, not just you can, but you must.
Mm-hmm.
It is the key, because unless you embrace your lover when she's hurt, you cannot help her. You cannot give her a phone call and say, okay, just get over it. That's what a lot of people do. That's what New Agers do. Just get over it. I'm in love and light. Why can't you be in love and light? It's that righteousness you spoke of. And so the world is saying, oh, yeah, you're in love and light. They're going to take your house. They're going to take your health. They're going to take your loved ones. And it's going to get worse and worse until you get it. You're not in love and light. You're denying that you're not in love and light. So you're obviously not truly in love and light, because love and light goes into the dark. The guru dispels the darkness. The guru brings the light. It doesn't just stay on top of the mountain. That's not the guru. We're all the guru. We're all Lucifer. We have all fallen, so to speak, and we've done it for a reason, because somebody says, yeah, you've fallen. No, I'm grounding. I'm landing. There's a big difference. It doesn't matter if the landing is bumpy or not. I can still get back up. I was designed to bounce. We are incredibly resilient. And even though they keep spouting prophecy upon prophecy, their own predictive mechanisms are saying, sorry, dude, like I mentioned in the last, conversation, mirror, mirror on the wall. Sorry, princess, queen, you are not the one who is getting timeline 2. And nobody is. And that's why they're sensing timeline 1, because there's this true emergence, but people are not consciously aware of it. You have the underworld on the one hand that's subconscious and is emerging, and then you have the overworld that's might as well be subconscious, but we just call it superconscious. It's still beyond the, consciousness viewpoint. But these things are like parallel. It's like a mirror and an object. The only way you can see the object move in the mirror is if you move the object itself. So only as the underworld comes up will its soulmate reflection from the overworld come down. And so that's how it's a blessing, and that's how what we interpret as bad things, yes, they're bad manifestations. What we want to do is take them, demanifest them without denying them, which means when you take away the power of manifestation, you bring it into yourself and you accept it. And that's where the love is.
You know, love is all about inclusion, and I mean that message has been coming through to me for a long time. Although I still think sometimes in terms of us and them when I'm feeling my fear, and I'm more in the fear mode. That's how my mind goes back to what would be called 3D constructs, because I've been brainwashed in that and trained in that all of my life in this dimension. And yet the other one impinges on it, and I feel the other one too. So it's, again, it could be pulling me apart, but really what's happening is it's
Bringing you
putting me
together.
together.
Exactly, because what you call the third dimension is actually the domain that contains the higher dimensions. So first you experience the higher, it's the container, you might say. So first you experience, you can't throw away the container and expect to have a glass of water. Break the glass, where's the water? So first you experience the dimensions within you as yourself, where you say, yeah, there is us and them. You can say, yes, I agree, there is us and them. There's me and them. There's me. In fact, some philosophers say, look, the only thing you can really be sure of is that you exist. You don't really know. And scientists tell you, well, all the experience of the world is in your head or in your body or in your experience. So that's your reference frame. So many things that seem lies can be misunderstandings. Again, it's a matter of reverting the mirror, the image. And so when the world feels like, well, this is the limited 3D world, well, no, this is the container. I'm giving an opportunity with this us and them awareness to feel and experience the container. And whenever I feel us and them, I'm really getting the prompting to look into my individuality, into the individuality that I am, and saying, well, it's time to just set those guys aside right now and just look at, because here is an opportunity for healing. And then you can find that as a healing does emerge, some kind of relief, because you all experience the ups and downs, right? In the ups, it's very easy to say, I'm one with everything. In the downs, it's easier, instead of saying it's hard to say I'm one with everything, you can say, well, it's easy to say I'm one with myself. And so those are the times that say, okay, you've touched the outside, now touch the inside. Or you've externalized the inside, now it's time to internalize the outside. And eventually the cooking will bring them together. It's an alchemy, a cooking process. You have being, which is mysticism, you have doing, which is occultism, and you have alchemy, which basically is the process of bringing those two together. It's the transformation.
The divine marriage.
Exactly, exactly. So those are the ideas that I wanted to basically express today in variation. I hope your listeners take the time to, it's beyond pondering, because Heather is trying to present this message. She's not just talking about a legal system, or she's even shifted. She said, as far as what I understand is, look, let's forget about the OPPT as sign the contracts and fix everything. We're looking into being and doing. We're looking into being, to act, you have to be. And how do you express that to people who are born on the matrix and raised by the matrix? And I'm saying, well, there's people in this world who have learned to live on little cultures like the Japanese, the Russians, that are different, that basically make do with what they have. So if all you have is the matrix, then realize that the matrix is an inverted image. And so your challenge is to revert it, to find the truth within the subtext of it, through your own heart, your intuition, and the more you use it, practice makes perfect.
Indeed. You've given me some things in this that I did not know before, and for that, but you always do. Actually, whether it's a video or your commentaries, you always give me something to think about from a perspective that I haven't quite considered before, and I think that's where the real wealth of your contribution, not just to me, but to everyone that tunes into it. It's really amazing, Aristo, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate that gift that you bring to me and to everyone else.
Well, it's my pleasure, and thank you, Ron. And I believe when you listen to this video again, and as you will, and you come up with the blurb, because I'm amazed at your blurbs. I was really, I thought it was just going to be the video, and this is what I did with Aristo or something. But the blurbs are really telling. And they express, and I don't even know what I'm talking about sometimes. I mean, in the sense of having a full, when you look at it again, or read the blurb, it's like, wow, all these things were covered. But I felt from the last conversation is like, okay, it's time to talk about these deeper things, because I kind of shy away from occultism a little bit because there's so much paranoia around it. People with mystical tendencies think it's, oh, that's beneath me or something like that. But look, it's the science of mysticism and the art of mysticism and the skill. Mystics do not just sit there far away and do nothing. There are many mystics in the world. They're among you. They're among us. They're interacting. They're not going to tell you who they are. The master can be the person next to you. We've all heard that before. It could be the person within us, and it is. And one day the person will awaken and will remember. And we are remembering. I just have 30 years of experience in asking these questions and approach it. I play music. I consider myself a little bit of an artist, so I have that perspective. I have the scientific perspective and the mystical perspective. For me, the openness, the godhood in all of this, plus the goddess of the earth are real experiences, but I don't experience them 24/7. Our preconceptions of enlightenment are very, very biased. So find your own, you know. And
Find
I
your
hope
own and define your own.
exactly, exactly. But, remember that the matrix and everything you see on the internet, even what I'm saying at this point for many people might seem very, very confusing. But I'm the type that the devil's advocate is within me. So everything I talk about, I've taken. And one of the reasons I do go and post, and I've posted on occult forums where you have Satanists and I don't know what, I want to be able to embody that side that is against what I feel is true. The side that tells me you're wrong, this is bad, this is whatever, to be able to say, oh, this is how it feels. And then perhaps I can communicate to other people in a way that might be resonant with them. So I urge people, if they don't get this video and what I'm saying in this short amount of time, to listen to it again, maybe. And then stop it at some points, because there are many, many things compacted, and I hope in future videos to continue some of these themes.
Well, this is going to be the conclusion for today, and here's the irony. I very rarely watch any of my videos more than once. Very rarely. When I do interviews with you or with Peter, and there may be other people in the future as well, I always watch them 2 or 3 times. So I get more exposure to the ones where I do a conversation than my own videos. That may surprise a lot of people, but I really don't go back and listen to my own videos unless somebody brings a point up that I said something and I want to go hear how I framed it. Then I might go back and listen. But with yours, I mean, I will, in the processing thing, I will actually go through it 2 or 3 times. So
Well,
anyway.
you're also a Libra, so the monologue is not as appealing as the dialogue, even when you're involved.
Okay. Well, thank you very much again, and I hope to see you again next Wednesday, and we'll continue this till we stop.
I hope so
Till
too. There are
we make
always
another choice.
exactly open-ended.
Right.
Thank you for having me once again, Ron.
Thank you.
And I hope
Aristo.
all will go well for you as best as possible.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.